Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Audrey's Reading Area. Thank you so much for being here with me and joining me while I read these fun and exciting books for you on this. What's today, you guys? You got it. Multicultural Awareness Wednesdays. So I got another special book that I'm going to read to you guys. It's called Dreamer from the Village. Dreamer from the Village. Michelle Markle. Illustrated by Emily Lisker, and it's the story of Mark Chagall. Now, I didn't read it in advance, so if I mispronounce some of these names and words, please forgive me. But don't forget, go on over to Audrey's Reading Area and hit subscribe. Share it with everybody, too. Dreamer from the Village. All right. The story of Mark Chagall. Long ago, on the plains of Russia, there was a village of dirt roads and timber houses. One day, while a fire raged through the town, a sickly baby was born. His mother kept him safe in a feeding trough. The baby was named Mosh, but later he was called Mark. As a little boy, he roamed the streets, clutching a hunk of buttered bread in his fists. Rabbis and schoolboys walked off to heder, musicians and tradesmen trotted past, and women came out of shops, their baskets laden with combs of sugar and candles wrapped in blue paper. Mark climbed up to his attic window to get a better view. The town was like a richness that filled him. The goats and chickens, the factories, the cemetery, and everything that lay beyond. Sometimes Mark even crawled up on the roof. After all, his grandpa used to do it. Mark heard that on Sukkoth or Simchas Torah, the old man could be found perched on the chimney pipe, munching carrots, especially in nice autumn weather. The seasons brought wondrous holidays on Passover. Mark loved the colorful pictures in the Haggadah. He loved the deep violet of the wine in his father's glass. And when he opened the door for the prophet Elijah, silver stars trembled on a velvet spring sky. Mark knew he was different from other boys. He saw things they didn't see. On the Sabbath, enchanted by the singing of prayers, Mark saw houses floating. Once, as his uncle fiddled him a tune, the ceiling opened. Mark saw the clouds in the evening sky and smelled the stable in the fields. And one afternoon, the color of his uncle's skin drifted out of the window onto the street and rested on the cupola of the church. Mark decided he was meant for something special. He didn't want a life like his father's. His papa rose at dawn to pray in temple, then spent the day hauling barrels of herring at a factory. At night he came home with frozen hands, clothes wet with brine, too tired to eat his dinner. At heder, Mark forgot his lessons an hour after he learned them. In high school he failed all his subjects, but drawing and geometry the study of shapes. What was to become of the boy? The circles, lines, and angles seemed to take him somewhere. Using burlap bags for canvas, Mark began to draw. He hung his pictures on the wall for everyone to see. But his family didn't like them. And Uncle was afraid to shake his hands because making images was a sin. Once after the floor was washed, Mark's sister Mark's sisters took his sketches off the wall, laid them down, and wiped their shoes on them. Oh, how mean. I'm going to read this again. He hung his pictures on the wall for everyone to see, but his family didn't like them. And Uncle was afraid to shake his hand because making images was a sin. Okay. Once after the floor was washed, Mark's sisters took his sketches off the wall, laid them down, and wiped their shoes on them. But Mark kept drawing. One day, as his mother was making bread, he seized her floury elbow and cried, "I want to be a painter. I can't be a clerk in a warehouse or an accountant or a butcher. Save me!" His mother sent him to art school. The teacher told him to draw neat copies of plaster statues. The paint was the color of tobacco stains, but Mark wanted to draw villagers and peasants with loose, clumsy lines and a touch of violet. Mark took more art lessons in St. Petersburg. He didn't have the money for a room, so he shared beds with people, slept on their couches or in cubby holes under the stairs. He could only dream of bread and sausage. But when Mark painted, he was happy. Something always wanted to be painted. His village, the factories, his grandpa's house, even funerals that he'd watched. In one scene, the sad sky turned greenish yellow and a lonely fiddler crouched on a roof. During a visit home, Mark met a woman named Bella. She was rich and wanted to be an actress. The two of them walked on a bridge. Watching the clouds change shapes, they fell in love. That's what you get for walking on a bridge with a woman, right? You fall in love. Deep inside, Mark knew he was talented, but from teachers, he could learn nothing more. He'd seen pictures from Paris, the art center of the world. Mark packed his paint box, his tubes of paint, everything he owned, and took the train to France. All right. Paris was a thrill. In Russia, the sky was weak and dreary, but here the sun bathed everything in light. Mark rushed through the Louvre to see all the paintings. He spent hours in art galleries, staring at the pictures. Some had bold colors and tilting shapes. They gave him ideas. Mark rushed to his studio. He painted till the sun came up on sheets, tablecloths, even nightshirts. Goats and milkmaids flew above his village. A jewel green man talked to a see-through cow. A poet's head spun around as he wrote his poem, and the air shattered into window panes of color. This was not the way things really looked. It was how they made him feel. Years went by. Finally, a gallery invited Mark to have a one-man show. He probably did paint enough things, didn't he? But Mark didn't want to stay in Paris. He missed Bella. Leaving his pictures at the gallery, he headed home to Russia. On his birthday, Bella came over. When he opened the door for her, he saw blue air, love, and flowers float in. He's in love. 3 weeks later, they had a wedding. Happy couples soared through Mark's canvases. The village shone like an emerald. A great war broke out, keeping Mark and his bride in Russia. At first, he painted everything that passed by his window. The rabbis and the beggars and the sad old men. Some glowed red, others green. But soon he couldn't paint. because he had to work to feed his family. One day, 8 years after he'd left France, Mark received a letter from an old friend. "Are you still alive? Are you still alive?" it said. "Do you know that you're famous here? Your pictures are selling for high prices." Wow. He didn't know he was making money. People smiled at Mark's magic animals. They sighed at the miracles of his village. His blooming colors filled their hearts with moods. No one had ever painted like this before. Mark moved back to France. He was finally able to earn a living doing what he'd always loved. He worked until he was an old man. When he was 90, Mark received a wonderful invitation. The Louvre wanted him to show his paintings. On opening day, Mark went to the museum. He had gone there long ago because his teachers didn't understand what he was doing. He'd been trying to paint the feelings he carried in his heart ever since he was a little boy. For Mark, that was always the most important thing. It made him one of the greatest painters in the world. The end. The end. The author has a note. It reads, "Several incidents in the story, especially the ones that take place during Marc Chagall's childhood, are based on those described in his autobiography, My Life." Wow. So they have a glossary with definitions of these words that I probably mispronounced. Haggadah. It's a prayer book used during the ritual Seder meal of Passover, a 7-day holiday that celebrates the Jews' freedom from slavery in ancient Egypt. Cheder, H-E-D-E-R, it's a Jewish elementary school, also known as Cheder, C-H-E-D-E-R. Simchas Torah. This holiday celebrates the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, also known as Simchat Torah in modern Hebrew. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Okay, those are the 5 books of the Old Testament. Sukkot, or Sukkot, an 8-day fall harvest festival, also called Sukkot or Sukkot. Hope I'm saying it right. The end. Wow. I had fun learning about this painter, Dreamer from the village. Wow. Thank you guys so much for joining me here at Audrey's Reading Area. All right. Go ahead and click like. Go ahead and share my videos. Now, please, paint on over to YouTube. Look for Audrey's Reading Area and hit subscribe. And tell everybody else to do that too. See you tomorrow, live at 5. Thank you guys. See you soon.